Hello, everybody. Welcome to End Times Talk and good evening. I hope you're all doing well. Uh, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I seem to always have to be the one to bear bad news. But maybe that's just how things are because there's not a lot of good news nowadays. So take the wins when we can get them, right? Well, check this one out. Selective Service System wants to war game the draft. Now this is interesting to me for a few different reasons because it wasn't that long ago that they raised the age for people to go into the military for active service. So they basically raised the age in which the people that they can draft from. All right. And there is a clarion call from the U.S. government to contractors to develop a war game scenario within the next 3 weeks. There's been a expedited process on this. Give me a second here, because I'm gonna show you from an important perspective here. But I'm just showing you that this exists. Government executive selective service system seeks software to aid the draft. If the military draft were to ever come back, this software would be used to quickly evaluate staffing and resource requirements. Now, it's not, I hate that they put it that way. If the military draft were to ever come back, this software would be used to quickly evaluate staffing and resource requirements. That's if. They're speaking like that's not what they have planned. And I want to show you something here. Here we go. This is from a government website, sam.gov. And I want to take a look at this readiness simulation for the selective service system. And it says right here it's active. Okay. Now look at this. Listen to this. This is a request for, quote, RFQ for narrative price submissions, so from contractors, from qualified vendors, for a readiness simulation tool for the selective service system. Background, here's the background to it. The selective service system established under the Military Selective Service Act, MSSA 50 USC 3801 ET-SEQ, is responsible for maintaining a system that can rapidly furnish manpower to the Department of Defense during national emergencies, while ensuring fairness, justice, and operational readiness. The Selective Service System executes its statutory mission through 6 mission essential functions, MEFs: registration, selection, notification, delivery, classification, and the alternative service program. So it's all about, you registering for the draft, you being selected for the draft, notified of your service, them delivering you, and then classifying you. Selective Service System seeks a simulation model, right here, seeks a simulation model that in preparation for any national emergency, so they can, so that's weird. It's not for a war scenario, it's for any national emergency. It enables the agency to evaluate staffing and resource requirements, compare mobilization and policy scenarios, assess the operational impact of surge conditions, identify throughput risks, delays, and bottlenecks, and to support executive planning and reporting obligations. It says the contractor shall design, develop, validate, document, and deliver a government-owned readiness simulation that, one, models the full end-to-end selective service system mobilization pipeline. So they want every scenario, they want from beginning to end, they want something very elaborate done. Supports configurable scenarios, provides decision support analytics necessary for leadership, planners, and operators, operates within the selective service system designated cloud environment and uses anonymized aggregate data. Listen to this right here, because they say, listen to this right here, supports complete government ownership and sustainment. So the government has the handle on all this. Nobody else, no outside, nothing. So I can't, show you anymore because there's people's information below. But, here's the website, And so this proves right here that they're getting ready to war game the draft for a fact, an absolute fact. Now, again, we'll just put this out here. Hold on a second. Here it is. Selective Service System Readiness Simulation Performance Work Statement. This was on the 22nd of July. I'm telling you right now, they raised the age to which they can have people in the U.S. military. During the first Trump administration, I can't remember what he did, and I didn't look it up before I went live, and I should have. But he did something pertaining to the draft too during his first term. I believe this has all been planned. He knew he was going to get a second term. He knew he was working towards it the whole entire time. And, it's interesting because when you listen to his own words, he publicly refused to rule out boots on the ground in Iran, saying stuff like, I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground, that's one of his quotes. And he says, if they were necessary, there's another one of his quotes. And then he said, probably don't need them, was one of his quotes. He says that he's nowhere near ordering a ground mission, and I'm not putting troops anywhere at first. But in the more recent comments that he's made, he's continued to keep the possibility open. But he's saying he's reluctant, he's reluctant to it. He's saying, this is one of his quotes, I don't want to do that regarding ground troops. He's saying, I don't want to do that. But here's the thing, and I'm going to put this out there, and I don't care who gets mad at me over what. If you got to unsubscribe, you got to unsubscribe. People unsubscribe over silly things, but you know what? I'm going to tell the truth. Lindsey Graham, there's a video out right now of Lindsey Graham talking to Netanyahu, talking about the Iran war and saying that they've been planning it for a long time. You go watch the video. Go find it. Go on X and go find it. Lindsey Graham is saying, we wanted this for a long time, he said. That's what he said. And then when he's talking about Trump, he said he likes to blow things up. And he's just real cocky and saying, oh, I'm just so glad that you're my friend, Netanyahu. And Netanyahu is like, I'm glad you're my friend too. And I'm not against Israel. What I'm against is, I am actually against Israelis' military and America's military is emerging. That's really scary. That's against the Constitution. America is America. Israel is Israel, even though through, prophecy and spiritual means, there's some ties there. You know what I mean? But for someone to sign over our military to and another country's military to work as one, that's scary stuff. And I'm telling you, if that's happening and they're getting ready to simulate the draft in every key point, what they're saying is, and I've read the documents, what they're saying is all of the selective service system stuff is outdated and it needs to be updated to modern aspects of what's going on right now. And how things will apply, and to take into account all the new modern issues that could arise from the draft. And I think, I can't remember what it was, but I think even I can go in the draft. I'll be 40 this year. And I'm pretty sure it was like 40 something that they raised the age to people that could get in the U.S. military. And they basically made it to where if you have criminal or I think it was marijuana charges, drug charges or something on your record, you could get into the military now. They lowered the standard and they raised the age. It means there's a war coming, people. And I've seen enough signs to tell me that World War III is coming. And, for anybody who cares about this channel at all and have watched this channel, I've been telling you for a long time about World War III and what it's going to consist of. And don't think because you ain't over there, it ain't coming to you over here. There's some scary stuff, man. And they got all the flat cameras they're implementing, the data centers, the AI data centers, the ability to process the information that they have to compute to be able to control the world. And it is happening before your eyes. Everything that the Bible foretold that's coming is being built right now before your eyes. And it is going to take World War III to implement it all. And I've told you, I've shown you the maps, the post-World War New World maps. I've showed them to you. The 10 nations that will come from this. It's all lining up. And they're acting like they're not going to have a war and that they don't plan to put troops on the ground. I've heard people say that there's 100,000 troops getting deployed, that there's 33,000 snipers getting deployed. There are no troops being deployed that I know of that is legitimate as of right now, to my knowledge. And everybody's playing like it is, but I'm telling you that they have plans to do it. It's not right now, but they're going to do it. And now that the Houthis have shut down the Al-Menadab Strait and the Strait of Hormuz is shut down, that is basically 30% of the world's oil supply. Oh, just wait until you see what I'm going to show you in a little bit. It's actually pretty freaky. I'm not going to lie. And it confirms everything I've told you. I've set this channel up to where maybe not right now, maybe not tomorrow, but in coming days and time soon ahead of us, this channel is going to be more accurate as things progress. Mark my words. Mark my words. You can write that down. You can put me to the test on that one. I'm not saying thus saith the Lord, but I am saying mark my words, because I know the Illuminati's plan. Doc Marquis taught me the Illuminati plan. And this is part of the Illuminati plan, what's happening right now to have a draft. They want to send our sons and our daughters over to the Middle East. Once again, they're going to have something that happens, and I believe it's going to be some kind of an oil crisis, possibly, why we actually go to war, because they're not going to open up the straits. They're not going to. They released some propaganda video that's going around on social media, where they use the Legos and stuff. And they're saying that they want the apocalypse. They literally said, they were talking about peace, and they're basically saying, well, if we even really want that. They don't want peace. These are apocalyptic Muslims. I forget I think it's Shiite or whatever, or was it Sunni? I can't remember which one. But it's the version of Islam that is super apocalyptic and believes in the 12th Imam his coming can be accelerated. And the 12th Imam, is the biblical Antichrist. People don't know much about the Dajjal or anything like that, but it all applies. There's a couple of different people Muslims are waiting on right now. Islam is waiting on. The same with every other world religion on the planet. They're all waiting their Messiah right now, and they believe he's coming. And I have been warning people, things are about to get rough. The Bible tells us it's going to get rough. The Bible tells us how it's going to play out. And the enemy is playing into God's hand, absolutely. Nothing is happening right now that God hasn't seen happening beforehand. God is omnipotent. He knows it all. But wait until you see what I'm about to show you here in a moment. I just got to get there from the news. But yeah, Trump's, optimist, or he's reluctant to use the troops, but he's not ruled it out. And they're working on wargaming the draft because they know World War III is coming. They know World War III is coming. They know what they got planned. They said, we've been waiting for this for a long time, Lindsey Graham said. Right on. It couldn't be more blatant. Couldn't be more blatant that this is the Illuminati plan. And I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. They're all in on it. Every single damn one of them. We voted. We thought, hey, maybe we got a shot here at a decent this or that. No, sorry. But prophecy is being fulfilled at least. And we know that we're in the end, and we know what the Bible tells us it's going to be, and we know the promises that God's given us to walk with us through this every step of the way until the preacher rapture comes. But they're planning a world war. Now, sorry, I'm trying to remove that there. I want to show you this here. That, Trump has been working with Ukraine quite a bit. He's promising Ukraine weapons now. I thought we were against giving Ukraine more weapons. I thought that's what he said in the beginning. He's talking about supplying them, like, wasn't it Patriot missiles or something like that? And then I seen a picture of Trump where he's literally sitting next to Zelensky at the NATO summit, and he's got two thumbs up, and he's like the Fonz or something, like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that standing next to Zelensky? Let me show you what Zelensky is doing right now. But watch this. This is what Zelensky does. These are Ukrainian soldiers kidnapping civilians off the street. Look. And I've seen him take 18-year-old kids right off the street, man. I've seen him take 18-year-old kids right off the street. And let me tell you, and don't think this can't happen in your country after a draft is really, exhausted things, because they had a draft in the Ukraine as well. But, it wasn't that long ago that and I'm not for criminals being in America, where you have these people that are doing horrible things, raping people and murdering women and children and the elderly, and like, those people need to be deported. I don't care who likes who or what likes what. Bad people need to go. But there is people that even were U.S. citizens not too long ago that were being snatched off the streets by ICE, getting mistaken as an immigrant. And there were plenty of Americans cheering all of that on. You know what I mean? And I've always told people, be careful what you cheer on now, because what's coming next could be towards you. Wait until they start rounding people up and putting them in concentration camps. Wait until that they start saying what you're saying is hate speech, and they want to come round you up. You know what I mean? Like, be careful. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you applaud, because it can come right back at you. Now, real quick, I'm just going to put this out there before I get to the next piece of information I want to talk about today, but I'm just showing you the new Ebola numbers. This is for the 26th, 2 days ago, but, it's growing over 100 cases each day. So we know that, we're probably closer to 3,500, 3,600, maybe something like that. And there's not a lot of people that are recovered out of that. And the deaths, so far, 1,405. So you can tack all of that onto that. This is just what's confirmed right now. These are who have recovered from past numbers. 15 a day versus 125 a day getting sick. And that's what they can find. That's people that want to be found. You know what I mean? If you don't want to be found, you're not going to be found. Things in Uganda and France seem to be stabilizing. That's good. But what worries me and why I continue to bring it up is I'm concerned about someone weaponizing this Ebola that's had time to grow and smuggling it in and releasing it in different places. Like, that's, because we have a lot of people that hate America right now. A lot of people. And then real quick, and then this is the last thing on Ebola here that I got, and then we'll jump to the crazy stuff. But the UK is beginning trials of Ebola vaccine developed in just 8 weeks. So in 8 weeks, they developed this new Ebola vaccine, and now the UK is going to begin trials on that. So remember the Economist cover, the 2026 Economist cover with the 2 vaccines? Well, there's 2 different Ebola vaccines that they've concocted up. And so, once again, this Ebola stuff, or once again, the economist stuff, sorry. Once again, the economist stuff plays out. It's interesting how accurate that economist cover has been. Now, this one last thing here. I forgot about this one. Just real important, I think, for people to see. Surveillance cameras will be required in all new cars by 2027. I've been telling people 2027 is the year, man. And it lines up more and more. The more you dig into things and you dig into government papers and kind of Agenda 2030 stuff, 2027, man, is a interesting year. But the federal mandate right here requires surveillance in all new U.S. cars by 2027. There you go. There you go. Hello, New World Order. Hello, you can say hello to the New World Order. You can say goodbye to your freedoms. The flat cameras, they're going to have this stuff in your car, man. They're going to control everything. You ain't going to be able to fart, and they're not going to know. They're going to know what's going on. I mean, that's how bad this is. And so I just thought I'd put that out there, that because it just shows, with the flat cameras and the drones policing now, all of this stuff. Do you see the technocratic state being implemented? And that AI data center, man, there's over 1,000 of them so far, and they have plans for more than 1,000 more to be implemented. They're going to have all the computer processing power in the world to control the New World Order. It's insane. And so I've been looking into this 15-minute city stuff. This one post really got at me, and it's a little bit graphic. I do want to warn people, what you're about to see is terribly sad, and it bothers me to show it. But I feel like people, need to see this, because you need to know it's happening. So unfortunately, and I'm going to mute this because I don't want to hear any sounds or nothing, but there are a lot of animals that are struggling with all the wildfires that are happening right now. This is all very up-to-date stuff. See, they're spraying the animal down as it leaves the wildfire. I really respected that. Like, that right there, that's what humanity is all about. But, man, to see these animals displaced by these wildfires just breaks my heart, man. Just breaks my heart. But they're doing this. They're using their directed energy weapons, and they're using people like Antifa to go out. I've showed you video. I maybe not the last live, but the live after that. I've shown you video where people are getting caught. Well, I mean, how many did I show you? Like 20? How many did I show you? Like 20 different people that have been caught and prosecuted for starting wildfires? But they're not talking about that. They're not talking about this problem of all these people going out there and starting wildfires. But they're wanting to portray that it's climate change. And remember, we've talked about the 7 different things that the World Economic Forum predicts will be in place by the year 2030. And one of them being that over 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. That means about 12%, maybe 13% of the world's population is going to be shifted about by wildfires and tsunamis and all this crazy crap that they are causing. If you look in Matthew 24, when God's talking about the beginning of sorrows, he's saying, listen, pay attention, very key words here. There will be wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom, famines, pestilences, earthquakes in divers places. He says, when you see all these things, know that the end is not yet, for these are the beginning of sorrows. And it's not the end of it all, but it's the beginning of the end. The beginning of sorrows are the beginning of the end. And if you listen to Christ's words, all right, what he's saying is that I'm not responsible for any of this. He's saying this is man doing it. He didn't say I'm going to. He didn't say I will. He didn't say God will. He didn't say my Father in heaven will. He says these things will be happening because man is doing it to themselves. We've had such wild weather, such strange weather. And it never ceases to amaze me. It never ceases to amaze me. Now, I want to show you something here, and I want to prove something to you here. And because we're talking about climate change here, this is where it gets a little freaky, man. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, okay? Like, this is pretty unnerving if you know anything, right? If you're paying attention and you're watching what's happening, this is unnerving. So what I'm going to do is, okay, is I've pulled up the search. You control F and you can search documents, right? We're going to just search through stuff here. And I just typed in the word fossil for fossil fuels, okay? So I typed in just the word fossil, and we're going to go through this document. This is from 2025. This is the C40 Accelerator Progress Report. C40 is this climate change stuff that's all about the 15-minute smart cities and all this stuff. Let's do this. Ready? I'm going to prove to you we're not going back to oil. Ready? Here we go. All right, so if we see right here, everywhere that's highlighted blue, okay, is the word fossil. It says phase out fossil fuels. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, it says away from dirty fossil fuel down here at the bottom, right here. Okay, look at the next one. All right, right here. Eliminate the use of fossil fuels or solid fuels for heating and cooking. Right there. All right, let's go to the next one. Phase out fossil fuel or solid fuel technologies for heating and cooking. Let's keep going. It says right here, phase out the use of fossil and solid fuels. Right here. I mean, we can keep going and going. Fossil free, right there. Fossil free assets, right there. We can keep going. Right down here. It says redirected away from fossil fuels, right here. I mean, over and over again, 62 times almost. Fossil free projects that support climate goals. Fossil free, fossil fuel free. This is what it's all about. And now you're seeing why the oil's getting attacked. They're waging a war. The Illuminati is waging a frigging war to destroy fossil fuels. That's how they're doing it. Trump, I think, is absolutely working for the Illuminati as one of the 10 kings of Revelation. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he's the Antichrist because he's too hated to be the Antichrist, right? But what he is, I believe, is one of the 10 kingdoms, and he is working for the New World Order, and he is working for the Illuminati because he is doing things that are causing the acceleration of all this. It says right here, from fossil fuel companies, from, not to, all right, from. And this also talks about funding, like getting funding away from it. It says right here, an end to fossil fuel financing, right there. More city mayors than ever are using speeches, op-eds, and events to advocate for an end to fossil fuel financing. I mean, I could go on and on. Fossil-free finance right here. Just fossil-free, 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 over and over and over again. Remove and stop investment in fossil fuel companies. Does that sound like we're going back to oil? Or does it sound like what's happening right now is on purpose and them shutting down 30% of the world's oil supply? How do you do that? You start a war with Iran. That's how you do that. This is all planned. They are excited. You listen to Lindsey Graham. Go listen to Lindsey Graham talking about how excited he was for the Iran war. He says, we've been preparing and planning for this for a long time. He was almost giddy. He was like a schoolboy that had a crush on a girl a grade above him that like talked to him in the hallway. He couldn't have been more giddy. I'm serious. And then he says, he's talking about Trump, and he says, yeah, he loves to blow things up. And I've shown you they're getting ready to start a draft. I've shown you they're getting ready to start a draft. And so the thing is that I could go through this more and more and more, but this is a whole, I mean, I could just show you real quick and flip through it, but it shows you over and over again cities that have removed fossil fuel companies from municipal investments right there. It's all about getting rid of fossil fuels. Well, if the Illuminati is going to do that, really, come on, reason with me here. If the Illuminati is going to do that, the video is on X, the Lindsey Graham. Just type in Lindsey Graham, Benjamin Netanyahu video or something over on X, right? But they are planning to get rid of fossil fuels. And if you are going to get rid of fossil fuels, how do you do it? Tell me a better way than starting a war with Iran. With all of Iran's proxies and all of their black hand that's all over the place, that's funding all sorts of terrorist organizations and other governments in the Middle East, controlling them, people like the Houthis, for instance, already waging war in honor of Iran, going after like Saudi Arabia because they're partnering up with America because they want to shut down that oil, man. It's all about shutting down the oil. So your gap, just like I showed you in Atlas Shrugged. You know, I literally showed you the clip where I showed you the proof, the video where they show us that it was over, I think, over $800 for a full tank of gas in that movie. And that movie is the Illuminati plan to halt the world, the motor of the world, to stop the motor of the world. How do you stop the motor of the world? You cease the oil and you cease the fuel. I'm telling you, it's coming. And you know, I'm not one of these people that wants to believe that we'll be here for any of this, because I'm on the side of I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture, but it's better to prepare and be ready and know and be informed. And I've told you a month before they shut down the straits that they were going to shut down the straits. I told you before Russia invaded Ukraine that Russia was going to invade the Ukraine. I told you that they're implementing a technocratic system that's just like, you know, George Orwell's 1984. Now they're putting cameras in our cars. They got drones policing everywhere, just like the movies. They've been showing us that they're going to do this for a long time. And they got to get rid of the fuel to do it. And then everybody's got to drive electric cars. And those electric cars can't obviously drive across country. So you got to stay in your little 15-minute city box. And that's what this is all about. These are all these mayors that are getting involved in this. From all these different cities. And there's a lot of American cities that are involved in this. New York, LA, Miami, Chicago. Like, dude, America, you are in trouble. And their intentions are bold. And they're basically bold, ambitious climate action. Because they got a 2027 and 2030 deadline, because they're saying that there's alarming signs of accelerating climate breakdown. And they're saying it leaves us no choice but to go further and faster. This is going to happen quick. And they're going to use world war to do it. They're going to shut down the oil to do it. They're going to put everybody in a bottleneck, in a chokehold, because they want to control your movement. And I'm telling you, I told you a lockdown is coming. I said, I just don't know how the lockdown is going to be implemented. I don't know whether it's going to be a virus. I don't know whether it's going to be a climate emergency, but they have every intention to create a bottleneck, choke point situation with your movement, with your ability to do what you want and have freedom to move about as you please. Because once they have it all locked down, they got their grid, then they can put their drones in place. They will blanket the world with drones. And they have the drones to do it. And they're creating the AI robots. You best believe that Elon Musk is getting them ready, these new iRobot looking things that he's got. You got Kung Fu robots in China. You got robots policing in China already. You got robot dogs policing in businesses for them. Businesses are hiring people that are controlling these robot dogs to police their stuff at night. It's crazy. And I mean, I've seen footage where they got, AK-47s on top of these robot dogs and flamethrowers. They're preparing for war. And America is asleep. Especially America. Maybe not on this channel. The people that come to this channel, you're not asleep. But man, America is in a heap of trouble. A heap of trouble. And everybody walking around like nothing is happening. And I'm telling you, next year is going to be a shit show. Excuse my language, Lord. Excuse my language, Jesus. Next year is going to be chaos. Mark my words. It is going to be an intense display compared to what it has been this year. You think 2026 was bad? You think 2026 was bad? 2027 is even worse, and we're 4 months away from 2027. We're 4 months away from 2027. It is almost August, people. And I suggest people take it seriously. Abide until he comes. We know he's coming. We have that promise. We can hold on to that hope. But man, dude, this is right in our face right now. They're ramping up the age to get drafted and lowering any restrictions that keep you from joining the military. And they're preparing a war game scenario to see how the draft will play out because they're preparing to do it. Why would they do that if they weren't preparing to implement it? They are implementing this thing. It's right in our face. And I just, think that more than ever, we need to be in prayer. I think more than ever, we need to be praying for our sons and our daughters. Because I have a feeling that there's a huge depopulation event about to take place when they put boots on the ground in Iran. It is, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, like, you think Iraq was a bloodbath? The Iranians, man, there's some demons and some of them evil people over there. I'm not talking about like the civilians and stuff like that. Like, dude, there's a huge chunk of Iran that is followers of Jesus. A huge chunk. There's a huge underground church in Iran because of the way the regime has been treating people and slaughtering people for so long. You know what I mean? Trump isn't the Antichrist. Trump is one of the 10 kings, I believe. But I definitely believe he's one of the 10 kings. The 10 kings have to be in position before the Antichrist. The Antichrist will not show his face until the 10 kings are in position. That's just the way that it is. That's Daniel. That's the book of Daniel. There are 10 horns that represent 10 kings, and then a little horn come up out of the midst, and that 11th horn is, that. So my point is, and I want to say this really clearly, if you're going to argue with me on my channel, you're going to get blocked. I don't have time for arguers. You can state your opinion, and then because you've stated your opinion, I'm going to state mine because you come on my channel to state your opinion. And then if you want to argue about it, I don't have time for debate. You said your piece, I'll say mine, and that's that. Because I feel that it's important not to mislead people, to speak with discernment and with the facts, and even though you might not be right today, to line up with things that are the God is doing, or things that that the enemy has planned to expose those things. And so that's where I want to stay at. I don't want to call someone the Antichrist who's not the Antichrist. I think that's kind of wrong, honestly, because that's a horrible thing to call someone if they're not. But we do know that Trump is a part of the club because he's operating in a way that shows us that he's part of the club. That's the thing, is that, if it wasn't for him pushing the AI data centers, if it wasn't for him trying to make a peace agreement in the Middle East, which is Kingdom 7, let me pull that up real quick. I'll just show you real quick here, which is Kingdom 7. Hold on, it's coming up. I'm trying to load it here. It's being slow. So Kingdom 7 is the Middle East peace plan, right? But then he's talking about conscripting Greenland and Canada and all that. That's Kingdom 1. And he working on Venezuela, talking about Colombia as well, and so Trump is, I think, a very aggressive 10 king, one of the 10 kings. I believe he knows the plan. He knows he's going to be one of them. And so he's working towards that, accelerating that. That's what I believe. And I don't think this Iran war needs to happen like this. I don't. It really sucks. War sucks. And what really upsets me is the fact that when we first got into this war, it was all about freeing the Iranian people who were oppressed and being slaughtered. Where's all that rhetoric now? Just out the door. just out the door. What about the people in Iran that are suffering? What about the people in Nigeria that are being slaughtered in the name of Jesus? That there's Muslims slaughtering Nigerians. I could tell you some very horrific stories that are so brutal that I can barely handle them. I'm being honest with you. And I have seen some gnarly stuff in being a watchman. I don't go looking for it, but it is difficult. And we can't deny the fact that one of Satan's own, Marina Abramovich, said that Trump is a magician of the highest order and that he's been sent to create chaos. Ordo ab chaos. Because see, he's not the Antichrist if he's been sent to create chaos, because the Antichrist will come on a platform of peace. Peace, and then sudden destruction, because his peace is not the Antichrist's intention. Trump didn't come peacefully. He came to conquer. And so he's doing the bidding of somebody else above him. He is a puppet, and that is all he is. But yeah, I agree. Saint JPM, I agree with this 100%. War always sucks. It does. No matter what you do, no matter which way you try to spin it, war sucks. It is kids and women and children and people dying for no good reason. Probably a lie. Most wars have been started over a lie. What was that American vessel in German waters, like the Lusitania or something like that? They got shot. That started World War I. World War II, it was Pearl Harbor. And then Roosevelt, I think it was, wasn't it FDR that was a president during Pearl Harbor? And I think that he was purposefully withholding shipments of food to Japan to antagonize them to do Pearl Harbor. And then you had the Gulf of Tonkin incident that never happened, right? That put us into Vietnam. And then you have 9/11, that was an inside job that put us into being over in the Middle East. You're right. There's no one's a winner when it comes to warfare, but this is where we're headed. And Aleister Crowley, one of the most evil people that has ever walked this planet, all right, high-level Satanist, he said that in order for the new eon to begin, the world has to be bathed in blood first. It's not a direct quote, but that's what he said. And so there's a huge culling about to happen. And it breaks my heart. And I'm sorry to bring you this news, but I'm telling you to expect it. This isn't going to get better. People need to get this out of their head. This idea that things will go back to normal. And it gets almost getting cliche to say normal isn't coming back, Jesus is, but it's the truth. It's the truth. I want to speak truth on this channel. I don't want to lie to people. I don't want to deceive people. I don't want to lead people off astray into some weird false thing. That's why I'm so careful what I say, and I'm so careful about what I allow people to say in the comment section. And most people don't comment here because, you get your butt kicked out if you start being disrespectful or something. This channel really isn't meant for comments so much. It's meant to bring you information that's important. And I don't know too many people that talk about this stuff unless they've heard me talk about it. And I'm talking this map specifically. But there's other channels that are bringing this up finally, and it's about time people start talking about it. It's about time people start bringing up the 10 kings, because nobody talks about the 10 kings. Everybody talks about the Antichrist coming, but no one talks about those that will come before him, the 10 kings. And I'll show you this. Back to the information I was trying to show you here. Hold on. So right here, you have the 2025 to 2030 business plan, right? And I could read this, but I'll just abbreviate here. But it says Mission 1, help, and you can read this yourself. You should probably read this. Help the world to halt climate breakdown by halving fossil fuels use in cities by 2030. By 2030, right there. Increase, and so they're telling you that what they're going to do. Which one was this? What page is this? This is 20. Yeah, this is for 2024, the C40 Cities annual report, right? for 2024. So this is not that long ago. 2 years ago, they're talking about this right here. Increase resilience so cities and people are protected as they face the impacts of climate breakdown. They're literally saying the world's destabilizing. That means, if they know that, that means they are destabilizing the world. And we know what the Bible says. We know that these things are going to be happening. The Bible told us first. Don't mistake it. It says right here, mission 3, ensure a transition. There you go. There's a transition coming. There's a transition coming, people. Ensure a transition to a clean, green world that is fair, inclusive. You know what inclusive means, right? You have to accept everybody's perversions. And it says it addresses the injustices of climate breakdown. It says here, let's do this. Implement Leadership Standard A. Cities are implementing ambitious climate actions to deliver their citywide, and it'll be your mayors that really do this, right? Pay attention to your mayors, okay? And how your mayors are maneuvering and positioning themselves. Or if you're getting a new mayor, deliver their citywide GHG emissions targets by 2030 or earlier, reduce the use of and end support for fossil fuels. End support for fossil fuels. Right there. Right there, people. You're going to see a lot more scooters in your neighborhood. Better get you an electric scooter. Because the reason I say like an electric scooter of some kind is because if you are going to have to be able to go to work on something electric, it's going to be a lot less expensive using like an electric scooter, something smaller to get to work. Unless you live in an area where there's like heavy duty winters or something like that. But it says here, and address emissions from urban consumption. Then it says address priority risks, enhance resilience, and deliver citywide adaptation goals and targets. So this will be, also the implementation of, monitoring, and they're going to have more cameras. And if people are doing things that goes against the climate, this new climate lockdown that's coming, the energy lockdown that's coming. I mean, I heard from somebody that watches the channel. They got a hold of me and they said that there was a planned blackout in their area, and it blew them away. And they said they're sitting outside and there's people outside having bonfires and things like that where there was this planned blackout. And it just goes to show that they're trying to implement it slowly. Blackout, rolling blackouts, things like that. This is going to begin to be a thing because once they get these AI data centers built, all the energy is going to be pumped into them to monitor us. That is what those things are about. Yeah, cutting down flock cameras, things like that is bad. But I'll tell you right now, praying against that these AI data centers collapse is even worse. So don't go do that. Don't pray that these data centers, get whatever. You know what I mean? Don't pray against them. Don't do that. Says here, deliver stronger and more equitable outcomes for all. It says by 2030, cities have established comprehensive governance structures that ensure climate targets and considerations are integrated across decision making, including introducing climate budgeting. So they're going to monitor to make that happen. There's your cameras and your flat cameras and your drone cameras and things like that. I had a drone fly over my house not too long ago, and I was almost positive it was law enforcement. Almost positive. All right, and it says here, says mayors are using their leadership platforms to broaden the global, regional, and local impact of C40 cities, climate actions, and collective missions. Because here's the thing, the feds can't do much about it. All right, they can implement martial law or something like that, something big, but they want to spoon feed this to you. So this is going to be your mayors in your town or your city or your village leaders that are going to be doing this to you if you become a part of this. Now, I will say there's a lot of American cities that are involved in this. There's got to be 20 or 30. And I'm talking the major ones. It was like Houston. I read Houston, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, New York, Miami. I think Dallas was one of them. I think Portland was one of them. But this is what's going to happen. Mark my words. This is what's going to happen. Get ready. They're going to start a war, and mark my words, this is the plan. They're going to start a war, and they're going to start to begin to depopulate. All right, they're going to depopulate, and they're going to start allowing people's sons and daughters to go fight for an endless cause, and it's going to start to depopulate. They're going to use probably disease and virus and famine to depopulate more, and they're going to get things down to a manageable number, and then they're going to smoke everybody out. They're going to start wildfires or flood people out of their homes, and then regroup them into these major cities that are a part of this C40 plan that's taking place right now. That's in full swing, in full effect. I've shown you today that they plan to end fossil fuels and get everything on an electrical grid, just like I've been telling you for the past however long, couple of months. I told you oil isn't coming back. Oil isn't coming back. The way you had things before, it isn't coming back. They'll keep their combustible engines, but eventually it'll get to the point where they're saying, oh, use this oil in your car. This will be a good substitute, and it will gunk up your engine, and it will destroy your engine. And then eventually your cars are obsolete, and then you gotta upgrade. And I'm sure eventually, just like they, paid for your vaccine, they'll pay for your new electric whatever that you need to get around, but you're not going to own it, and you're not going to have it, but you're going to like it, because that's what they've been telling us they're going to do. I'm out of here, people. I hope y'all have a good night. Jesus be with y'all. Stay close to Jesus. Stay praying. Things are getting difficult. They're telling us what they're going to do to us. It seems like everything's amplifying. I believe that another birthing pain is coming. May God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live. And most of all, get saved, get Jesus, because he is the only way out of this thing.